In this podcast, Fred Zinkie makes it clear that he practices Kwanzaa. We celebrate the minting of a closer in Chicago and a whole lot more coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by WinBet. Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with the man that is higher on Steven Kwan than anybody else in the fantasy baseball industry. He is Fred Zinkie. Fred, what's going on?
Well, other than watching Steven Kwan get on base over and over again, not much else. I watch, actually, as we're recording, my Blue Jays are playing the Yankees, who gifted the Blue Jays an out at the end of the first inning and this was, I thought, was really nice of them. Maybe it's Josh Donaldson doing a favor for his old team, but he stopped at third base completely. Let the Blue Jays gather the ball and then started running home so that they could easily get him out of home plate. I thought it was really nice of him.
Yeah, it was. You know, it's funny because it's like everyone, you're going to love the way Josh Donaldson plays. You may hate him as a person, but you love him as a teammate until he does that sort of type of thing.
I think that was a bit of a third base coach mix up.
It could have been.
Totally pin it on Donaldson.
Well, my Reds had their own base running foibles. Kyle Farmer was trying to steal a base, kept his head down, can of corn fly ball to left field, slid in the bag, didn't realize until too late that there was a fly ball and got beat back to the bag on a routine fly ball. So the Reds were supposed to be done with that because Jesse Winker was one of the biggest practitioners of two plans last year. The Reds had a lot of them last year. Castellanos was another. Usually there are errors of aggression. This was just an error, period. And that's frustrating to see.
Head down is one thing, but I guess he didn't hear the ball get hit. So to realize, like, I guess he was so focused on stealing that base, he didn't hear the crack of the bat.
Yeah.
To think that, hey, wait, what's that sound? Oh,
all the noise in Cincinnati.
I've heard that sound before.
With the excitement in Cincinnati, it just drowned out all the sound of the ball coming off the bat, or it was such quiet contact. I don't know. I'm trying to find some sort of reason that was really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Even quiet, even fly balls, like you can hear them pretty well if you're sitting down near the field on a game.
Yeah,
I doubt the crowd was drowning it out either.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see I'm sure you probably saw it on Twitter. The interview with Phil Castellini, who's like the son of the owner, and they're asking him about what's going on with the team right now, and his comment was, "Well, where else are they going to go?" And and unless we pick up and move this team to another market, we can't do anything better or something like that. It was really bad. Really awful showing. And it's like the A's and the Reds are having this contest and who can antagonize their fan base a little bit more. And they each keep on winning. It's really ugly. But anyhow, this isn't going to be a Reds wine cast. I promise it's not. It might be a little bit, but I just did a little bit. But we are here to celebrate Steven Kwan, who you have argued that you are higher than anybody else in the industry on him.
Okay, that's a bold statement, but I got to think...
You're a bold man.
I do think I'm up near the top of people in the industry on him. I was annoyed about our labor league, for anyone listening who's in that league other than you, Jeff, but I put in a healthy $18 out of 100 bid on Sunday. And as we've discussed, and I know people listen loyally, no, there's no $0 bids in that league. So 18 out of your $100 is a big deal, because you can't run out of money at the end of the season. I thought for sure there would be other bids in the double digit range. I was debating like 16, 17. I was like, forget it. I want this guy. I'll go 18. If someone goes, 20, they can have him. But 4 was the runner up bid. Only 5 other people bid on him. The other bids were 5 other people, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1, 2. So what that means is like half the league did bid on him. So it's not like people didn't notice he was available, but that half of the league didn't think he was going to be, he can keep this going, I guess.
Fred, I've got Jake Fraley in my lineup. Why would I need Steven Kwan? I mean, come on. I'm embarrassed to say I was a little bit of the falling asleep on the switch sort of thing here a little bit with that one there with missing Kwan. Although I'll explain how I wouldn't have bid nearly that much anyhow. My perspective is that, at least going into he had the 5-hit day on Sunday. Everyone's
Mhm.
like, ooh, and all that. He's not a power hitter at all. He doesn't steal bases. He tried to today, got caught, by the way.
Mhm.
So you're looking at a guy that is an average guy who, he's going to help you in average and runs. He's probably not going to help you too much in RBI. Of course, he had a bases loaded double the other day, or triple. I forget which it was yesterday, but to just make me an idiot about as far as that goes. But I feel like he's at most a 3-category player, and he's really a 2-category player.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what I like about Steven Kwan. And you and I, so here's where I'm at actually on him. So I actually, you mentioned to me, before we recorded this, that your kids had soccer on Sunday, and that kind of left you a little cramped for time
Mhm.
on your
Yeah,
bidding.
at a soccer tournament this weekend. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, so I took my son to the Blue Jays game, which that on Sunday afternoon, the only one they've lost so far this season, mind you, is the one that I happened to go to. It
So
also
it's your fault.
it also took a long time, thanks Hyunjin Ryu, on the 12-6 loss. It took a while. Anyways, by the time we got home and then I had dinner, I didn't have quite as long. I for my Tout Wars bids, I was not as aggressive on Kwan. Everyone was talking about Josh Lowe. After 10 o'clock, when I sat down to write closing time for a Yahoo article, I ran my numbers on Kwan and I ran my numbers on Lowe. And you work with SGPs too, so this will all make perfect sense to you. And the same as I do how SGPs can jump up and down wildly depending on how optimistic or pessimistic you want to be on a player. But
Yep.
so here are my thoughts on Kwan. So his strikeout rate in the minors is outstanding. He should hit for average in the majors. So if he can maintain, he doesn't even have to maintain the strikeout rate he had in the minors. He could double it, and he should still hit for average in the majors. So I'm going to say, forget the fact that he had 5 hits on Sunday. Let's just say that Steven Kwan can be a 280 hitter. I think that's reasonable with his high level of contact skills. I see from him contact skills in that Jeff McNeil, Michael Brantley type, those guys who don't strike out a lot. I think he can be a 280 hitter. So, and if he keeps hitting 280, he should stay hitting second, I think, for the Guardians, right? He hits second every day now. If he keeps hitting 280, he draws walks. There's no reason to move him. So if he stays hitting second, he'll get a lot of plate appearances this year. Now, last year in the minors, he got 12 homers in 77 games. So if he get 12 homers in 77 games in the minors, what do you think he could get if he plays, let's say, 145 games? Because there's no real reason for the Guardians to rest him. He's young. He could rest the odd day, but without an IL stand, he could play 145, 150 games this year. They don't have a lot of competition. It's not like they have studs all over their bench or something. So what do you think if he could hit 12 and 77 games in the minors last year? What do you think he could hit in 145 major league games? Could he hit
9
12?
to 10? 9 to 10.
Okay.
But
okay,
yeah, although I'm looking at my projection right now, and I'm going to have to upgrade him. I'm going to have to give him more playing time, clearly. Because at this point, he's playing every day instead of a half a season. I've got him more around 80, 352 plate appearances. I need to get that up over 500. So yeah, maybe 10 to 12.
Yeah. So I said 12 when I ran my numbers because I thought if he could do it in 77 games in the minors, I know the majors is harder, but give him 70 more games, almost double the games. He could probably repeat the 12 homers. He's also young and at an age when players tend to improve, kind of fill out, get stronger. And he's at that age where at 24, where you can get stronger in an off season. So I said 12. I don't think 15 is out of the question if he plays every day, but something like that. And then steals. So last year he stole 6 in 77 games. The year before he stole 11, not with a great success rate, but he stole 11 in 123. So if he could steal 6 in the minors in 77 games, and he's hitting second for the Guardians, I got to think he could steal. Can he steal 6 in the majors? Could he just do what he did in the minors last year in 77 games? Could he just do that in the majors, 12 and 6?
Yeah, he could. I think that stolen bases don't translate entirely like that.
Right.
I think it takes a little longer to read a pitcher, for instance. But I think that, when I do my projections, sometimes I struggle to find the major league equivalents on stolen bases because translate minor league steals to major league stolen bases, and it just doesn't quite work out the same way that I'd like. But I think you're persuading me as we're talking that I was a little ungenerous with his projection.
I felt like I was hearing people yesterday say he has no power and he has like no speed. And I was like, well, he doesn't have no power and no speed. He
He's
doesn't
not
have
Madrigal. He's not Nick Madrigal.
right. That's how I kind of felt. He's like, okay, so he has below average power. And in this major league environment, he might actually have average speed. If he gets still 6 or 7 bases, that's not average, but pretty close, like what we're getting now. So now, okay, so he's not a big, but neither is Michael Brantley, for example. Like Michael Brantley,
True.
you're expecting less than 20 homers probably nowadays and basically no steals. So comparing him to Michael Brantley, like he could probably combined homers and steals get about maybe 20-ish, something like that. I put him in for 20. So I put him in on my SGPs for 13 and 7. So basically what he did last year in the minors, I gave him one more of each, but it's 20 combined. And he's one of those guys who kind of chips away. Now, if he hits second all season and he plays pretty much every day, and he's a good on base guy, hitting in front of Jose Ramirez, hitting in front of Franmil Reyes, can he score 80 runs? That's pretty reasonable. He could probably score 90, but 80 is probably pretty reasonable.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I did an upgraded projection for him. So this is like breaking news as it happens, basically. And that Reds game is over. The Guardians Reds game is now over. I gave him 75 and 45, 75 runs, 45 RBI. What do you think?
Okay. So I gave him 80, and then I think I feel like kind of anyone who hits second. I was going to say anyone who hits second in an American League lineup, although now this year it doesn't matter. But traditionally, anyone who hits second in a lineup that doesn't have the pitcher batting ninth, I think they all drive in 60 plus runs, 60, 65 runs. I think that's even on the low end. Like I think I think you have to have like absolutely like Nick Madrigal level power to not drive in 60 runs. If you hit second and play every day on a lineup with you know what I mean, with no pitcher.
Right. And I might be a little light on both too, for that matter. This is my general caution, because he is at some point theoretically going to run into a slump, and we'll see what happens with him batting second all the time too. It may not always bat second, but sitting in front of Jose Ramirez, that's a pretty sweet spot. If he gets that all season long, I mean, he could score 100 runs. He could score 110 for that matter.
Yeah. So the high end on him would be that he hits 280 with a good walk rate, like a 350 on base, 3 or something in front of Jose Ramirez, plays every day, scores 100 runs, drives in 65 or 70. That's the high end. I tried to kind of split the difference on that. It is a really good example of like I could have gotten pessimistic on him and said, well, he probably won't stay hitting second, so I'm going to really lower the plate appearances, and then that would drive everything else down. What if he gets put down to the bottom of the lineup? But I feel like just with his low strikeout rate, a line drive stroke, I feel like he could hit second all season. Anyways, I put in what I felt was reasonable, kind of 80 runs, 62, I think I put in RBIs, and he came out surprisingly high. So I'll give you a good comp. He came out in the Alex Verdugo range.
That's an interesting comp, because that's another guy that has not zero power, but not a lot of power.
Right.
Not zero speed, but not a lot of speed.
Right.
I like it. I like
going into the season.
Cleveland lineup versus the Boston lineup, not the same, but still.
No. Yep. In draft season, I had Verdugo at 15 homers and 6 steals. So pretty similar to what I have Kwan. 80 runs, 66 RBIs, 286 batting average. Kwan came in right around there. Where was Alex Verdugo going in draft season in 15-team leagues? I'd say about round 11, 12, something like that. He was someone who didn't really jump around. I think he kind of sat in that round 11, 12 type range. I've put my ADP list away kind of thankfully for a while, but
right.
But I think he was kind of in there. So when I saw a chance to get someone who, and again, that was without me like going crazy on Kwan projections, but like kind of I felt like a little reasonable, maybe a little optimistic. So anyways, at that point, I felt like he was worth a pretty good bid because he came out as like way, way above replacement level. Yuli Gurriel is another example, like a little less speed from Gurriel, but Gurriel doesn't have much power, but hits for a really nice batting average. He came out around a lot of these guys. Jonathan Scope has a little more power, a little less speed than him, but is also kind of a bit of a batting average helper. There's a lot of these guys who kind of were in the rounds like 10 to 15, 11 to 15. And if you could grab an 11 to 15th round guy off waivers, that should be worth a fair amount in a 15-team league. Yeah.
So you have Kwan. You presumably have a little bit of depth. You got Jorge Soler on your bench, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
How are you doing on closers? You got Iglesias.
And that's it. Thank you to the Braves for signing Kenley Jansen and ruining my Will Smith.
So I'm sensing an early trade opportunity because our next guy on our list of things to talk about is David Robertson, who picked up his second save of the year today for the Cubs. Gives me, well, we'll see if I have 3 closers or not, because we haven't seen the Cardinals really have too many chances to close out games. Their wins haven't been close. I have Clase, I have Gallegos, I have Robertson. I have a weaker lineup. I have Robertson on my bench this week. That was a mistake. In fact, I'm making all the mistakes this week, Fred. I had Connor Joe.
Oh, you have Connor Joe on your bench. Oh no.
Yeah. Because Jake Fraley at home. And I had Robertson on my bench because he has 4 games in Colorado, and I'm just making mistakes left and right here. Luis Patino made it through 2/3 of an inning. Now he's on the IL. Wow. So I'm hurting right now. But perhaps we can work something out. I don't know. I could fill a couple of different offensive spots. Jonathan VR has 3 plate appearances so far this season going into today. I could find a way to, if we can find a way, maybe do a closer for a hitter. Maybe there may be an avenue for us to discuss.
Now, this is the part where you bring up that we did a closer for a hitter trade last year, a little bit later than this.
I wasn't going to because it's a different year and it's not necessarily past results do not repeat necessarily. But I just I happen to have 3 closers. Maybe we'll see. We'll see about the Cardinals.
Yeah. You have a good closer who hasn't had a save yet, but Clase will be fine. You've got a really good pitcher who should get some saves. Hopefully, we don't know in Gallegos, and then
doesn't have a save. Yes.
And you've got, but they have no saves, I believe. Correct? I don't think that the Cardinals have had a save yet. And then you got a guy with 2 saves who could be your bet. He could be a great closer this year in Robertson.
I have a lot of Robertson this year. I jumped aboard that train. I was a little late to the party on that. Me too. But then I was all in the party once I joined it. So I actually was able to get him in a few places.
I think he's the Cubs closer right now, full stop, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Second save today. Not a bumpy save, if I recall correctly. I don't even remember how that game fleshed out, but that's probably good.
2-1. Right? So Michael Givens gave up a home run to Brian Reynolds in the 8th.
Also,
which actually helps your David Robertson shares. But then Givens settled down and kept the lead, and then Robertson came in and didn't strike anyone out, but didn't put anyone on base either. So that's all that really matters. Givens did get 3 strikeouts. Givens was good. He just gave up a solo homer, but I think it's status quo there now. Givens did his job in the 8th. Good enough. Robertson did his job in the 9th.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty stylish there for me. Yeah, and the other Cubs win was a 9-0 game, so we can't really learn anything from that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's definitely not Rowan Wick. I think we can be pretty clear about that. And Robertson's been good. Robertson's had 2 clean saves. He's not getting big strikeouts, but you know what? I'll take the 0.67 whip and 0 ERA to start the season. That's pretty good. Yep.
I think he's their, maybe I'm getting carried away, but I think he's their closer. He could pitch his way out of the role. Obviously, he hasn't pitched much the last few years, but I think he's their closer. And I think they'd like him to just settle this down and just take the job. And Givens in the 8th inning makes a lot of sense. Givens and Wick kind of setting up for him makes a lot of sense. Yep. But you would still, not that we're getting deep into trade talks here, but you would still trade him before Gallegos, right? Or would you rather have Robertson? It's actually interesting. It's a
fair question. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Maybe but I mean, maybe, I don't know. I really don't know.
This one. Yeah. That's interesting. Cause at first I was like, well, I'd rather have Gallegos. And then I thought, well, I don't know. I need saves. Am I getting saves from Gallegos?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
If you want to
get the next Cubs save chance, right?
I mean, for the sake of the podcast, we should at least get this done during the podcast. No, just kidding. But come on, think about the listener. It's for the listener, not for your team. Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try to sell you a bill of goods because really, honestly, I want you to get saves. I want you to be able to make a trade with me and feel like you can make fair trades with me.
Oh, that sounds like a really good sales pitch, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the fact is, you are not one shy from trade, so I'm not really worried about that.
No, that's true.
But I want to offer a fair deal. So let's wait to the end of the week, and we'll see what our needs are. I mean, by then, might have 3 more guys with the bleak polls, so we'll see. That could be the case there. There were some other closer situations that got a little flushing out yesterday. We saw Texas, where Matt Bush pitched the 7th inning, and then Joe Barlow pitched in the tie game in the 9th inning and gave up a solo homer, then struck out the side. Then turned around and we saw that Daniel Bard blew the save. All in all, Greg Holland to me seems like the guy. I don't think Holland was great shakes himself yesterday, but I think he gets the next save chance is my guess.
I guess. I don't know. I wondered if Holland kind of pitched his way out of getting the next save chance last night.
Well, keep in mind they had the runner on second base.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He gave up that runner plus one other runner. It's true. He gave up 2 hits. He got one, which was a home. He gave up a homer.
Yeah, none of the candidates really covered themselves in glory. That's the thing. Barlow at least had the Ks. You like seeing the Ks. Mm-hmm. Maybe this isn't done. Bush's run that allowed was unearned. Brett Martin, officially got charged with the blown save on the 8th inning. Spencer Patton had to come in to bail him out. Maybe Patton's still part of the mix after all. Who knows?
You could have one of these Texas relievers. They're all sitting on your waiver wire. You can pick up one of them, and you have to hold them for the rest of the season. Which one would you pick up?
That's a mean question.
It's like a draft and hold or something. Let's say
Barlow.
Drafting right now in a draft and hold, and you have to draft one of them.
Barlow.
Yeah,
I think it's a long season.
Me too. Same.
But I'm not like, oh yes, I'm targeting this. Don't drop Joe Barlow is what I'm basically saying. If you have him, you're stuck with writing this out for now.
Yeah.
Wait, just keep writing for a while.
Yeah, I'm not really there on Holland. Matt Bush is also, he could be fine. Not that this really matters that much for closers, but he's deceivingly old. I looked up his age. Do you want to take a guess?
On who, Matt Bush?
Yeah.
It's like 35.
Yeah, he's 36. I did not realize he was that old.
Well, they mentioned it on the broadcast yesterday.
I would have guessed like 31 or something like that. And I know his whole history and everything, but I still didn't realize he was as old as he is. Mm-hmm. So I just don't feel, I just don't think I'm speculating on a 36-year-old possible closer. So I'd still.
Why not? They're just closers. I mean, it's not like you're going long-term here. In fact, sometimes the age is a plus.
Yeah. I know. That's what I said. I'm not going to hold it against him too much. Who's a starter? I'd hold it against him more. I still would take Barlow. I wouldn't drop Barlow. I don't know if I'm rushing out to pick up Holland. I'd have to be pretty desperate for saves, which apparently I am in labor. Maybe Holland's still sitting on waivers. Forget all these trades. I'll just pick him up.
Brad Johnson has entered the chat. Says Garrett Richards is his suggestion.
Okay.
Now he's on a rehab assignment right now, so we don't know for sure. But hey, failed starters close all the time. Mm-hmm. Could happen. Very easily could happen there. But I don't know. We did get definition in Baltimore. Jorge Lopez did get the save. Yep. Got through it. He has walked 3 batters in an inning and 2/3 so far this season. So yeah, he's got the save. He's got the saves right now. Whatever Orioles saves do exist this year, I just can't escape the feeling that this is just like the last 2 or 3 years of Orioles Goose Chase saves. You might get a guy for a week or 2 or even a month, but ultimately they're going to go through such a long stretch where they don't get any save chances and they're mediocre pitchers to begin with. They're not helping you if they're not getting any saves. I think sometimes the best policy, Colorado and Baltimore, just go like this. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, every league has its depth. I had some Cole Sulser before he was traded. I had some Cole Sulser in draft and holds, like beyond round 30, thinking that I thought at the time he was the best pitcher in the bullpen. So that maybe he would emerge at some point. But man, I haven't seen a team in a long time facing an uphill battle like the Orioles are. I guess they did last year too, but this season, when you look at how bad Baltimore is and how good the Blue Jays, Rays, Red Sox, and Yankees all are.
Yeah.
That is a recipe for finishing last in the majors this year.
Well, and to see that they're just not trying. I mean, their front office is doing what they can, but their ownership level is not trying. And to see to add a little bit of salt to the wound, You see that they got like this $1.2 billion grant to develop the area around Camden Yards. And I don't know if it's to refurbish and all that. How? Why? How does that happen in today's economy? It's amazing to me.
It would not happen in Canada, I can tell you that. Sometimes I see these stories and my mind's blown.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Back to Lopez, I can see, like, I guess any port in a storm, like if you want to pick up if you need saves that bad that we're talking about Greg Holland or Lopez, I guess when you break Lopez, and maybe Lopez is better this year, but we're talking about someone. So his career ERA is 6.01. He's 29. His career ERA is 6.01. It was over 6 last year. His career whip's 155.
Where can I get more of this?
Last year he had 14 losses.
Yeah.
Like, and he's on arguably the worst team in baseball, especially like with me projecting records. He's on a team that maybe is the favorite to finish last in the majors. And I know that there's the whole, like, hey, a team doesn't have to be really good to give you a solid closer. But we know by now that that's true to a point. Like, 100 loss teams don't usually give you closers who can help you very much. So, and we saw with the Sulcer trade that if Lopez has any stretch of effectiveness, he's probably out of there by the summer.
Probably. Yeah. I hope that the Orioles are building just like this killer farm system, just for the sake of like their front office people and their scouts and the players that are on the team, and the fan base that remains committed to them. It's been spit on for such a long time. I hope that, because I mean the Rays have shown it can be done. The Jays, for that matter, had a plan and turned around. Now they didn't have the long walk in the wilderness. They weren't like fully non-competitive like the Orioles are. But you can rebuild. You can do it. Just you can't just be defeatist and say, "Oh, well, we'll never win in this division." Especially in expanded playoffs, you got to try. And I don't know. I think it should ultimately work out that you can do that, but you have to be committed all the way through. So we'll see. Before we move on, we got to take care of a little business here first, and talk about our friends from WynnBET. WynnBET is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcast. WynnBET brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more are at your fingertips. Do you want a break from sports betting? Head into WynnBET's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down in blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at baccarat. WynnBET is currently available in 9 states: Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia, while rapidly expanding. At WynnBET, the possibilities are limitless. Register for WynnBET today. Make a qualifying deposit and wager to receive $200 in free bets. Promotion may vary by state. Download WynnBET now. That's WYNNBET. WynnBET, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcasts. I'm Jeff. He's Fred. Let's keep talking about the news of the day. Early returns we're doing. That's what we're focusing on. Let's talk a little Twins. Juan Duran, I think we got it right there. Followed Clay Link's Twitter feed if you want to hear him pronounce his own name. He looks awesome. Big shutdown inning last night. He throws over 100 miles an hour. He's healthy. Came back from a major injury. He's kind of one of those good, like, K-Rod type stories, I feel like, except not that this is at the beginning of the season, not the end of the season. Yeah, go pick him up. Are you trying to be aggressive and go after him anywhere?
I haven't, but I'm starting to think about it. That bullpen's still unsettled. Jorge Alcala went on the IL today. Oh, sorry. Alcala went on the IL today. So,
are you looking on friends and family right now to see if he's available? Is that what you're doing?
I am not. I should. That would be my typical.
I am now, but I bet
is he available?
Gone. I bet he's gone. I'm slowly traversing over to that page, but Canadian internet might be faster than American internet. We'll see. But I bet he's already grabbed this league. It's pretty sharp. Yeah, DJ Short's already grabbed him. I knew better than to look, but I had to anyhow. Go ahead.
So what I was going to say is, in that league, I actually have Tyler Duffy and I have Emilio Pagan. So I'm going with, maybe they just don't use Duran yet as a closer.
Okay.
But just right, like, just they go with veterans as a closer. Alcala's on the IL, so that thins out one of the competitors, at least for now. I can make a good case that Duran could be already the best pitcher in their bullpen. It's just whether they're willing to go with someone so inexperienced in the ninth inning.
Let's keep talking Twins. Byron Buxton, you mentioned, is it too early for Twitter victory laps? Yes, it is. Always too early. It could be October 1st and it'd be too early for a victory lap, but it's 4 games. We know the talent's there. The doubt on him isn't talent.
Yeah,
it's being able to get through the grind of a season. These 4 days aren't going to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, we could have done the same thing last year at the beginning of the year. Yeah, he went. So I did a super NFBC league draft last Wednesday because we did the live podcast during the Friends and Family on Tuesday. Then the next night I did my last draft of the season, which was my biggest one, the super. He went in the second round, early in the second round. Bold. In that draft, which I felt was really aggressive. But we do know that if he plays 145 games, he could meet that price. But we just won't know. He's the ultimate. I'll say that all the time early in the season on whether it was Steven Strasburg back during his kind of prime years, or I'll still say that sometimes about Giancarlo Stanton or Aaron Judge, guys who have like lengthy injury histories. Is that like the reason you don't draft them? It's not that you don't think they can play well in April. It's just that you don't think you'll get the volume of playing time out of them. And Buxton's just kind of the poster child for that right now. If Buxton plays all season, he's going to be, from the people who got him in the 5th round, the 6th round, he's going to be one of the best picks that there was in 2022. But we won't know for months.
Yeah. I'll be wondering all season long whether I made a huge mistake in not getting him in the main event when I could have taken him at pick 58, which was well below ADP. That's the only time. Who did you take? I took Will Smith, the catcher, instead.
Okay.
Because I was fixated on that. And I'll be honest, I had blinders on. I didn't even realize until Toby took him that Buxton was available. Oh, I mean, I could see it on my draft tool.
Sure.
I wasn't even thinking about him as an option for that pick. I was entirely thinking like, okay, I'm going to get Will Smith here. Or I think Real Muto had already gone. I wanted the catcher, wanted to build that way. And I knew I needed to get an ace in the 5th round, and I wanted to get the best available starting pitcher for me, which for me was Joe Musgrove at the time. And that part worked out. I got what I wanted. I got Musgrove and I got Manoah on the way back, and Alek Manoah looked really good. Yeah, I'm very happy with what I got from him so far.
Yeah, he got bailed out in the 1 inning where he walked the bases loaded.
Yes.
Bichette made a really nice play to bail him out, and if that didn't go well, he could have given up a few runs. But whatever. Like, the Jays have played good defense overall. He has some good defensive players on that team. So yeah. Anyways, I thought I watched that whole game start last night. His start to finish, and I thought he looked good. Back to Buxton for a minute. Do you think that was an example of like having a draft plan and then having a draft plan causing you to kind of have blinders on, like, or do you think that, like, you know what I mean, where you were like, hey, Will Smith's my round 4 target, so then you kind of don't think enough about Buxton? Or do you think even if you had 2 hours to think about it, you still would have taken Will Smith?
I think that's a good question, and I think I might have answered it I think with more time I might have gone the other way. I'm going to have some serious. I usually don't pay up for Buxton. I did last year in my AL home league, which was probably the worst league to do so because replacement level is so low. But if I'd done it in a 12-team mixed league, that would have been the ideal time to take a chance, right? But I think if I had more time, I would have seen, there was fewer, and I was chasing speed the rest of the draft. So he would have been a nice fit for my team too.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I ask is that I think some really, really good fantasy players will have we'll talk about how they have very firm plans and have narrowed the player pool down to very few players when they draft. I've never gone that route. I've got my projections and then my SGPs and my rankings of everyone. And some drafts I end up taking someone who I never envisioned taking because they fall. And I didn't think that, based on ADP, I didn't think that person would be there based on my projections, when it's my turn to pick, they're the highest ranked person left on my list. So I go with them. And, maybe I was thinking round 4, I'm going to get Real Muto or Will Smith. But then when round 4 comes, oh my gosh, Trevor Story's still there. How did he fall this far? And then I just deviate from what I expected to happen. Because
I do that too.
I don't get too specific on the plans, but no, I know you don't. But I do know that some of the really good players out there, I feel like, have talked about how they do get very specific on the plans. And if someone falls but isn't part of the plan, They don't deviate from the plan. I've never really been there. Like, for example, this draft season, I often thought anytime I think I can get a third baseman in the draft, basically at value, I'm going to take him. Like where a
Yeah.
third baseman's even anywhere in the top 3 or so on my remaining list, top 4 or 5, I'm going to take him just to get third base filled. I often took Manny Machado maybe over someone who I had a couple spots ahead of him just to get third base filled. But beyond just that, I never locked in too much on a plan. But like I said, I do know some people who do really, really well at playing fantasy do lock in on a plan. And if Buxton falls, but he's not part of the plan, they just let him pass and they don't seem to really care because that's not how they do it. And I respect that.
I do too. And I just think it depends on how strongly you feel about Buxton for that matter too.
Yeah.
I projected him for like 132 games. So I should have been more open-minded about taking him there, especially when you consider I took Liam Hendricks, who got a save, did give up a run today, and Jordan Alvarez. So I'm getting no steals out of my second and third round picks. I probably should have been more cognizant of Buxton there. So we'll see. I mean, the team's doing all right. It's off to a good start, but I'm going to need some breaks along the way, and I'm going to need Tatis to be a fast and full healer.
Yeah, that is a good example of knowing your projections. Like you knew when you came up to pick, like you have a projection for Buxton and a final number, but that final number you were a little conservative on it. Right. Like on the games played. So that's one of the advantages of doing your own projections is, like I've been there before. Maybe like this year, I don't have a lot of shares of Stanton, but I was a little conservative on his games played just because he's got a decent injury history. And in one of my more important drafts, I forget which one off the top of my head, but one of my more important drafts, I ended up drafting him because when it came my time to pick, he was near the top of my list. And I knew that projection was only at him playing like 130 games.
Right.
And I thought, well, there's a lot of growth in that projection, actually. So I should go ahead and take him. But if I didn't do my own projections, I wouldn't know that that's where it came from.
Yeah. We don't hear a whole lot of Pacoda mentioned in fantasy context anymore. But one of the things Pacoda did that I thought was really good, and this is Baseball Prospectus's projection system, is they had a range of outcomes. They had a 50th percentile, 75th percentile.
Yes.
And a guy like Stanton or Buxton, I mean, it really helps to have those range, to know those ranges a little bit there and know what range you've got them projected at. I mean, and, salt to taste, it's knowing how you want to play. It's really important to have that range.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go right back to the Kwan discussion we had at the very beginning. I probably projected him before I did my labor bid at, probably like an 80th percentile. I probably project him around an 80th percentile. Like there's probably 20% on growth on that, but I was well above 50.
Yeah. And that's good. And it's worked out for you so far. For sure.
And you have to you definitely have to be aware of that when you're drafting and when you're making your fab claims of like who you were optimistic on and who you were pessimistic on.
Yep. I 100% agree on that one there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these, a couple other players that we observed today. You mentioned Garrett Whitlock was awesome. Got the win in relief, came in, piggybacked off of Rich Hill. When he came in, they were down 3-0. They won 5-3, and he just shut down the Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've talked about him. This is a plan, him piggybacking off Rich Hill. They mentioned that prior to the season that he could piggyback off Rich Hill and probably also appear in one other game, probably, every week or every trip through the rotation. Well, the 4 innings today, he's not appearing in any other games, but he could even appear in one other game if he throws like 2 innings or something like that. So yeah, he looks really good. I think there's a lot of potential for him to pick up vulture wins in the role that he's in. Maybe even pick up the odd 3-inning save where he comes in and then they just expand the lead but they just let him finish the game. He had a couple saves last year, so I think that's even possible. He went in our labor league, I think, to Zach Steinhorn for 6, and I think 6 was fair, but I think I was so interested in Kwan that I didn't really look at spending much on anyone else. And saw Whitlock for 6. I was like, oh, that's in a 15-team league. That sounds pretty good. I kind of wish I had gotten in on that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You got 4 shutout innings out of Whitlock today. That might be all you get this week. 2 strikeouts. You got the wins and you got the great ratio. So it's probably worth it. But it's going to be a little annoying that he's not going to pitch the rest of this week. Probably, maybe he gets in on Sunday.
Yeah, and then but the good thing is, yes, and then you can kind of manage him. Like if he doesn't get in next week, you probably want him in. Sorry, this week again. You probably want him in next week because he could get in twice.
Sure.
If he does get in on Sunday, then maybe you sit him next week because you think he's only going to come in once. But if you figure this season, if he could average 3 to 4, there's 26 weeks. If he can average 3 to 4 innings a week, and then I mean today he didn't have a great strikeout rate, but overall, if he averages 3.5 innings or so a week, he could probably average 4.5 strikeouts a week.
Yeah.
So if he could do that and if he could get you 9 wins,
I love Whitlock. I think he's a great pitcher. In fact, it's one of those like, oh, he was available sort of situations there, because he's usually drafted and rostered in almost every league that I've been playing in. So the fact that he was actually available is one of those things too.
Like I said, I feel like that was a miss on my part. I had my eye a little bit on Daniel Bard, who I don't feel good about, but again, I needed saves in that league.
Oh, did you get Bard?
I did not. And I felt I only claimed one. So once I got Kwan, that was all wrapped up in one claim. I was also interested in Kyle Wright, who went for I wouldn't have got him anyways. I did put in a competitive bid, but I think he went for about 11. I was interested in him too, but it's just I felt like I wanted the hitter more. But if I missed on Whitlock for sure.
If you get 70 runs out of Kwan the rest of the way, 75 runs the rest of the way, you're probably that's worth your $18. So it could still it could be fine.
And in those 15-team leagues, like finding hitters on the waiver wire who play every day is not easy, right? Like they just like you find platoon guys. Also, I found the other thing, not to go all the way back to Kwan, but finding guys who play every day and can actually help your batting average is hard to find. I find a lot of the guys are on waivers for a reason, and that's that they don't get on base that often. And you're like, this guy's got a little power, or this guy might steal base. Finding ones that actually could hit 280, they don't come along too often.
No. Although last year was kind of lucky. I found some guys, and I think you did too. Like I found Schwindel on the waiver wire. I found Susugo on the waiver wire. I found Joe Barlow on the waiver wire. And Class A obviously was a big one.
That's
there.
A huge one.
Yeah. That waiver wire wins championships sometimes. And that's in a mixed league. That's a 15-team mixed league. So wasn't quite wasn't quite the same level as like saying in an only or even in the main event, but still 15-team mixed league with the IL spots, unlimited IL spots. So I think it's unlimited. Maybe it's 10, but
no, it's unlimited. Yeah,
it's unlimited. I think I came close to the 10 one year. I think that's maybe where I got that number in my head, that I had 10 at one point. 2 years ago, I think that was the thing. That was fun. But anyways, it just shows that it's the season. In that league, trading is a skill, and the waiver wire is equally important too. Quick note before we move on from Better Edge: bet against others with no fees involved. That's right, no pesky hidden fees to ruin your day. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace where there's no fee on each transaction. Better Edge is a social betting marketplace, and chances are it's legal in your state. We bring betting back to its social roots, where you can like, comment, and challenge others, all within the app. Play without getting played at Better Edge. Go to betteredge.com. That's bettoredge.com to sign up today. All right, Fred, there's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about. I have Luis Patino. I mentioned that. Taijuan Walker got hurt, has a shoulder issue. Would you drop them? And if a no IL league, what would you do? Say if you have him, not in our league because we have an IL spot, but what about another formats there where you don't have, like the NFBC platform? Would you drop them?
NFBC, I think I keep Patino and drop Taijuan Walker. I think I'm definitely dropping Walker in a 12 team. In a 15, I think I'm probably dropping him too. I just feel like even when Taijuan Walker comes back, like he'll be okay and like streamable, but not really good. So I'd probably drop him and use the spot. But Patino, I think, has more potential. So I'd probably try to hold him unless I had run into some really bad luck with injuries. What do you think?
I was thinking keeping Walker, but maybe I need to revisit that. I figure previously pretty good starting pitcher on a very good team. That was my mindset. But then again, it's a shoulder, and that's a problem. He looked good too. He had 4 Ks through 2 innings on that one. In the case of Walker, I'm talking about now. I'm looking towards dropping Patino. That was my thing. I got to see how long they're projecting Walker to be out. I haven't seen that. So to be fair,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I looked at Walker like last year. His ERA was 4.47, so not good. His WHIP was 118. That's fine. Strikeout rate last year 146 and 159 innings, so 8.3. Like it's pretty like standard for like it's not good for a starting pitcher right now. You're right that the Mets are a good team and that's a good place to pitch. So I mean, it's obviously dependent on, you know, like how many other injuries you have and how much bench space you have.
So
right?
what I'm reading on Walker is it's bursitis.
Mhm.
It's like he's going to need a couple of rehab starts. It sounds like doesn't sound like it's a really long-term thing, but then again, it's a thing that happened. Looking at the ERA, he had a 118 WHIP and 116 the year before. His left on base percentage was pretty low last year, like it's like 69%. So I think he was just kind of unlucky, at least in terms of ERA. I don't know. I think a pitcher in that ballpark, I'm going to hold on to
maybe I'm selling him short a little too much. Again, I think it just depends. If I'm set at closer, so I don't need to drop him to grab like Greg Holland types, right? Maybe if I needed saves, I might have to drop him to start streaming that spot, or if I had a bunch of other injuries, maybe I need to drop him, you know, because he's probably going to miss if he needs a couple starts. If he's shut down for even a few days, like he's probably out for I don't know at least 3 weeks.
Yeah. So my issue, I do have him in the main event though, and I also have Tatis, what we talked about. That was my one stash. And then Josh Rojas got hurt before the start of the season. That's 2 stashes. You had a third one there. Now it starts to get a little dicey. I'm waiting. Oh, and I have Michael Pineda. So I have another stash that was on that one. I thought would be relatively quick. Maybe not. I'm running out of spots. If you want to pick up starting pitching, well, hey, something's got to give at some point there after that. So maybe Walker is the drop. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect description. Is, you know, by Sunday there are going to be players in the main event who you're interested in. If you need to drop one of, say, you're not dropping Tatis, so if you need to drop one of Rojas or Pineda or Walker, I don't know. I wouldn't really want to drop Rojas, although he's out a little longer. I'd probably want to keep Rojas. I think I'd probably want to drop either Pineda or Walker.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to just keep all those guys. And fortunately, and knock on all the wood that's available, I have a second closer in David Robertson, because it doesn't look like I have it anymore in Jake McGee. That's why you don't do Twitter victory laps, folks. Because when the manager says right now, today, he would be my closer, it doesn't mean he would be in a week from now when he actually plays in a game and you see him in the 8th inning or 7th inning, as the case may be.
That was a little frustrating for sure.
Yeah, but I got what I deserved a little bit there. I was on like, hey, I got him at 213. It was the earliest in that draft weekend. Good. Just be quiet. Just keep your head down. Don't go bragging on something like that when you haven't gotten a single save out of it yet.
Karma.
Yeah. Just keep that head down next time, buddy. All right. Pitchers that pitched well yesterday: Nick Martinez, Michael Lorenzen, Dylan Bundy, Matt Manning. Rank those 4 for me.
Okay. I'm interested. I'm intrigued by Michael Lorenzen. I'm going to go Lorenzen. I'm going to go Lorenzen, Martinez, Bundy, Manning. What do you think?
I've got him in the exact same order. It's funny. I was talking to Paul Sporer on the show, and he's big on Lorenzen, and he was the one that was talking about. And he definitely said he was not interested in Dylan Bundy, that this is just kind of a one-off, like cold weather, little lucky start against Seattle. That don't read too much into that one there. So I've got him in that order too. I mean, embrace a little bit of the unknown, right? Bundy's velocity was down, so that's a reason not to be that excited about him. Manning didn't get the strikeouts against the Red Sox. He did get the good outing, but I just don't trust. I need a lot more to see out of that before I get on aboard that bandwagon. So if there are leagues where Lorenzen and Martinez are available, I am going to be interested in going after them for sure.
Would you drop Taijuan Walker for one of
them? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I might if I need another start next week. Here's the thing about Lorenzen that's not great. Angels use that 6-man rotation.
Yeah,
you have to wait forever to get
that
2
might
steps.
make me lean towards Martinez.
Yeah.
I might
Although
lean
the
Martinez for
Padres
that
might
reason.
too. And Mackenzie
Yeah.
Gore is now joining the Padres. So, good reporting saw that he had, that his nameplate was in the locker room. He's tentatively penciled in to start this weekend against the Braves. I think Friday is when he'd be pitching against them. So, all of a sudden you're looking at that rotation, and I actually, with Snell on the IL, Gore is the fifth, slots into his spot, so it's okay. Where do you put Gore? You put Gore in that same grouping. Where would he slot if you could start him this week? Let's say we'll even give you that proviso, so you knew
I
you're
guess
going to
I'll
get that
put
start.
Gore first just on potential, although I worry that he's just up dealing because of the Blake Snell injury, and maybe he's just up for one start. But
Right.
I think I put Gore first. Back to that group, what I really thought about, and you mentioned this, is strikeouts from that first start. Like Dylan Bundy only got 2, Matt Manning only got 2. We've seen lots of starters just dance around contact for one start here and there.
Right.
So I'm not, until I see those guys strike some more batters out, I'm not really interested. My pause on Nick Martinez is I feel like the majors haven't really seen him for a while,
Right.
right? So I'm
It's
kind
been
of
5
interested.
years for sure.
Right. So I'm kind of interested to see once he's made a few starts and there's some more video on him, and then I want to see how he does against the league. I'm interested in picking him up because maybe he can sustain this, but that's my concern, is that he can fool some batters right now, but once there's more video on him, he won't be able to do that. So Mackenzie Gore obviously was a pretty hot topic during spring training. So I would take him just on the upside. And then that's why I liked Lorenz in second, the 6-man rotation. First out of the group we first mentioned, but second, if we put Gore in, is he got 6 strikeouts last night. But the 6-man rotation is a problem. But, the way starting pitching is right now, even if he just starts once a week, if it's a good start and he can get 5, 6 strikeouts to start, I'll take him.
Is this sort of the Bob Marley approach? You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Is that it?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, good.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to squeeze it, force that reference in there. Maybe people should be asking Seiya Suzuki for scouting reports on Nick Martinez. And while they're at it, just watch some Seiya Suzuki because he homered twice today.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd help if the Cubs could get some guys on base for him, but whatever was good enough today. It gave him the 2 runs they needed.
He looks legit.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think he's going to turn out to be not like the steal of the draft or anything, but a good value pick. He was kind of going, I felt like by the end of draft season, about round 10,
Mm-hmm.
I get into that round 10 and 15 team leagues, say somewhere around pick, 140, 150, something like that. I think he's going to end up returning better value than that.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I hope you're right because he's fun. More talent in the league is absolutely a good thing as far as that goes. All right, one last note, and then we're going to do a general question when we come back. Baseball is back. That's right. An entire glorious season, all 162 games. And with live events resuming, you can actually be there, like Fred was on Sunday, to catch all the action in person with Vivid Seats. I'm not saying that Fred did it this time, but I know he used Vivid Seats in the past.
Totally.
Every backdoor slider, every round tripper, every doubleheader can be experienced live. And with Vivid Seats rewards, you can start earning free tickets from your very first purchase. Just buy, collect stamps, and redeem. It's that easy. From behind the dugout to upper level, Vivid Seats has you covered for all the games that matter to you. Pro tip: buy tickets for your whole group, split the bill, and make progress towards your free ticket even faster. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats. Life happens live. And while we're at it, we're going to give you a quick note from our friends at the Blue Wire Network. Thank you for your indulgence. We host our podcast on the Blue Wire platform, so we share their ads. General question: are we using too many starting pitchers right now? I asked this question actually of Todd Zola today too, and Paul Sporer. Good advice during draft season, I heard this was, go get those Jonathan Loaizaga types. Start them. Stash them in your active lineup because pitchers aren't going 5 innings right now. The Yankees got their first starter to go 5 innings in Jameson Taillon in the loss to the Jays yesterday. I think that's generally a good idea. Try to get, it's a good way to maybe steal a win or two. But the problem is timing the market. Getting how many innings are you getting from him or Chad Green or one of those other type of pitchers? Is it just a week or two option, or do you go the whole month doing that? What are you doing, Fred, with your rosters?
Yeah, I'm kind of wishing I've definitely been burned by some low level starters already. So it's had me kind of rethinking it. And then I'm thinking back on those, like a Chris Flexen or someone like that. And I'm thinking back and I'm like, man, why was I even expecting this early in April after the shortened spring training? Like, why was I expecting 5 innings? Like, it would have had to all go well to get the 5 innings from him. And then obviously the downside is significant for a starter at Chris Flexen's level. I mean, if you get burned by Brandon Woodruff, you get burned by Brandon Woodruff. If you started him, you have to start him. It didn't go well. That's too bad. But definitely on some low end starters, I've been thinking twice, because if they can't get you the 5 innings, then they can't get you the win. Then you're really, and if it's not a high level guy, like they're probably going to hurt your ratios. Like, what are you hoping for here? Just 4 or 5 strikeouts at that point.
The funny thing about Flexen is he's one of like 6 pitchers that exceeded 90 pitches. He actually threw 91 pitches. He only got 4 1/3 through that.
Yeah.
But that was the funny thing is he actually did go deep pitch wise, just not innings wise.
Yeah. The tough call is and I think in the short term, if you were trying to win April, the Loizagas, the Chad Greens, I think those guys are the best guys to have in your lineup. The only hard part about them is that they take a roster spot, and you could be using that roster spot to try to find closers, to try to add someone like Kyle Wright, to try to add someone like Michael Lorenzen, right? Like I would probably rather this week have Loizaga in my lineup than a lot of the starting pitchers that we talked about, even the ones who were successful. But if I don't go rooting around Lorenzen, Nick Martinez, pitchers like that, then I'm never going to find one like who actually turns out to be better than expected. So that's the hard part. So I think you kind of have to balance it a little bit in that regard. But I have Paul Sewald in a couple leagues, and like he's staying in my lineup until I start seeing starting pitchers go deep into games. He's staying in my lineup for sure, and I'll hope for a win or a save. Later in the season, hopefully I can build up my starting pitching to the point where Sewald's like in and out of my lineup, and I don't use him every week. But right now I think he's an every week guy rather than using the next starting pitcher who's on my bench.
I think that's probably right. And the thing is, there are lots of guys, that are good usable options. You just don't want to have too many of them.
That's right.
I think that's right. And by the way, your Sewald thing will probably work tomorrow because Steckenrider and Castillo both pitched today. And they're trying to keep a close game close, even though it was a losing effort. But Steckenrider pitched in the 7th, and while they were losing. Now, granted, it was a 1-run game at the time. Matt Brash made that start, by the way. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought there was a lot to like about him. 6 Ks and 5 1/3. A lot of sharp break on his pitches. He gave up the homer to Luis Robert. It's Robert again in the 6th inning as he was starting to tire a little bit there. But all in all, I was pretty impressed.
I totally agree. I actually watched that start from beginning to end. Matt Brash grew up a couple hours from where I live. I'm actually good friends with his cousin, which is really rare to be able to say that as a Canadian baseball fan. So,
nice.
So I was especially interested in the start, and I watched it from the beginning to the end, and I thought he looked really good. And his defense didn't do him any favors at times. So, yeah, if you picked him up last week, I would feel pretty good about that right now.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in this same game, Jared Kelenic, 0 for 4 Ks. I bring him up. We got a question in the chat about him from JP. Start Joe Adell, who's losing playing time and might lose more over the weekend once Taylor Ward comes back. I think Joe Madden was talking about Ward being in this lineup a lot, or Kelenic, who is he's hitting 067. 143 would have been generous to say what he was doing, but he's hitting 067 at 4 Ks today. Not great. Not great at all.
No, neither one of those guys look like great options right now. Although Adele had a better game last night, I think it does seem like they've already said that when Taylor Ward comes back, like the Angels have said when Taylor Ward comes back, he's going to play. So, which I was a little surprised about. I feel like that cuts into Adele's playing time as well. I think
why do the Angels hate Adele so much? It seems like they're always putting impediments in front of them.
It's true. And when you break down his season last year, like he wasn't bad, right? No. Like he's only 21. He turned 21 in August. Later on in last season, he has 703 OPS last year, which isn't like good, but for a guy who turned 21 in August, it's actually not bad. Like it's holding your own in the majors at
Yeah.
703 OPS, it's holding your own at a really young age. He's still someone who probably has a really bright future. Last night was hopefully a step in the right direction. Out of the two of them, maybe right now I'll take Adele, because with Klenek, like we just haven't seen anything. Like we haven't seen anything
No.
to
No.
get us excited. I guess
I think
Klenek,
it's
I would say Klenek has his playing times a little more secure, but it might actually not be. Like they've built up some depth.
right. He
If
sat
he's
out
not
one game already. He sat out yesterday.
right,
Julio Rodriguez got the day off today, by the way. And I know they're trying to play everybody a little bit there, but still, yeah, I think there's some concern.
right. I think so too. Like with them, like they still have Haniger and with them picking up Jesse Winker. Now Julio Rodriguez is another guy who hasn't hit at all this season. I think either Rodriguez or Kelnick, like if they're not hitting well soon, but one or both could end up in the minors.
Yeah, it's true. That's
Yeah.
troublesome.
So
Definitely troublesome there.
we
But we'll
definitely
see.
haven't, with some of these prospects, they haven't. Now I know Kelnick was up last year, Rodriguez this year. Spencer Torkelson, I think, got his first RBI, I think, this afternoon.
Yep.
Some of these
First
guys
hit.
we were super excited about. They definitely haven't exploded out of the gate. That's okay. Like a lot of them will come around, but they definitely haven't. Most of them haven't really exploded out of the gate.
No, they haven't. But
Yeah,
give it time. I mean, Seattle hasn't
absolutely.
even had a home game yet. So they're not going to be. I don't think they're going to make that much of a knee jerk reaction there.
Nope.
But when Kyle Lewis is ready,
Yep.
that's when they'll have a decision to make. I
Yes.
think that's when you start to see that there. But you're right. Julio Rodriguez hasn't done much either. And just striking out 4 times against Vince Velasquez. It's just a bad look for Kelnick there. But
Yeah,
anyways,
and we saw with Kelnick last year, like when they finally brought him up, he struggled so much that they had to send him back down. Like there is a point where you've got a prospect who's just playing so poorly that you decide as an organization it's just not good to have him stay in the majors hitting 100 or something. So you put him back in AAA and let him work on things there. I think the same thing. It's too early for us to say that's going to happen. But if Julio Rodriguez is hitting 130 in 2 weeks, they may decide that a few weeks in AAA wouldn't be the worst thing for him.
JP follows up as Jesus Sanchez a better option. Emphatic yes
Yep.
for me.
Oh yeah. Yep. I like him a lot.
Yep. Definitely over Adele. I'd say over Kelnick too.
Yep.
I like Kelnick long run. I still do.
Sure.
I still want to believe. But yeah, for a guy that's going to produce this year, I prefer Sanchez.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep. 2 homers last night. I like Sanchez. He had been pretty quiet until last night, but not overmatched or anything. I think we saw last year what he can do. He's
Yeah.
someone who should hit 25 homers this year, might hit 30.
Yeah. I'm excited about his future
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right. We've gone about an hour. Is there anybody else you really want to talk about this time?
Shane Bieber today, he's kind of important. Shane Bieber today
Yeah, he is.
was, I haven't seen the full velocity readings on his start today. He was okay. I figure you were a good guy to talk to since you would have been very interested in that game. He was okay. Like he came out limiting runs, but not really getting a ton of strikeouts.
Right.
And then later kind of got scored on. He didn't give up a ton of base runners. I'm still not feeling great about him, but I didn't feel great about him in draft season. So maybe it's just confirmation bias for me.
That I have the same fear in terms of like my ability to analyze is that I don't have him in any single league. I was actively trying to root against him today, and he took a perfect game into the 4th inning. He took a no-hitter into the 6th, I think, and then it all fell apart. Falling apart. He gave up 2 hits, and then his inherited runner also scored. So that off the home run, they brought in Anthony Gose as a pitcher now. That's what he is, and that's where the Reds did get the home run, but. I don't think he's completely out of the woods yet. He did get 5 Ks.
Okay.
So, but he's not the same dominant pitcher yet. He's had 2 good starts result wise, ERA wise so far, but it's not the same guy yet. We'll see what happens. When he gets the weather warms up, I think a little bit is something to watch for. Sometimes these pitchers have lower velocity readings in April. And I think that might be the case for him, especially when you're dealing with a shortened ramp up period, especially a guy coming off shoulder issue. I mean, these are all things you watch for a little bit. I think there's a minor concern for me, not a major red flag yet.
For sure. I didn't have him buried in my draft rankings, but I had him behind like the Aaron Nola, Lucas Giolito tier. And then that was enough to just ensure that I never got him.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
that's
all you
fair.
have to have. If you have a guy behind, the next group that goes a tier later than him, you're pretty much never going to end up getting him. It doesn't mean I didn't have him as my SP 25, but I was tentative enough that I didn't rank him where his ADP was.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough there. I'm eager to watch Alex Cobb versus Yu Darvish tonight. Cobb making his debut. Darvish looked really good so far. Padres haven't had a game outside of Arizona yet. They went straight from spring training to Phoenix. Had 4 games there, so now they finally get a game in. Oh, I guess they had one yesterday. But now we're talking about Nick Martinez. Yeah, they haven't had a day off yet. Yeah, but they're in San Francisco now. But Darvish with the second turn in the rotation. We'll see how deep into the game he can go. I'm excited to see that. And I'm curious to see what happens in the Giants bullpen. See who gets their next save, because right now we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very interested to see Cobb too, because I think Cobb is going to do really well this season. I'm not sold he's going to make 30 starts or even 28 starts or 27 starts, but I think on a per start basis, I think he could do really well for the Giants this year.
Yeah, he could. Dominic Leone has the 1 save for the Giants this year. And that was in Sunday's game. But it was a clean outing. It was not the first, second, or third guy I would have chosen from that Giants bullpen there. I wouldn't go after Camilo Doval right now. I know he blew the first save chance. He was wild in the minors, very wild in the minors. So I'm kind of avoiding him. Even if I did bench McGee this week though, in leagues where I had him. So we'll see. I don't have a whole lot of faith in anybody right now.
No, and McGee's he's not a real high strikeout volume type guy. So if you don't think you're going to get the saves right now, which you might, he could get a save tonight, he could get a save this week, but makes him harder to keep in your lineup than someone who's someone who you more project as like a 90, 95 strikeout guy. That's not McGee at all. So we kind of need to see him emerge in that bullpen in the next 2 or 3 weeks here. Otherwise, I think that some people have to think about dropping him. Like if we're in 2 or 3 weeks and he has like 1 save, then we're
back on that crazy train again.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun in 2020 with the Giants or any time with Gabe Kapler's career as a manager in Philly for that matter either. All right. That's we're going to have to cut it off for today. Appreciate everybody chiming in. Thanks everyone for listening. We do appreciate it. Please rate, review, and of course, subscribe. We appreciate all these things. It'll be James Anderson tomorrow with the Prospect Pod. I'll be back on Thursday with a guest to be named later. And then Friday, it's Clay and Todd. So everybody, thank you guys for listening. Back at you again next week.